What was happening at the time? What were the conditions that these settlers were living in?
I think they were pretty dreadful conditions, I think is the short answer. The initial English settlement in Jamestown was established in 1607. Small numbers of young men looking to make a fortune, trying to emulate the success of the Spanish in Central and South America, where they found gold and silver. These young men looking for a fortune arrived, hoping to find it in Virginia. They didn't devote much time and energy to trying to establish an agricultural economy to support themselves, to feed their new community. They ran into conflict with the local natives who thought that they were encroaching on their territory. There was a lot of suspicion, mutual suspicion, and then warfare. And very large numbers of people died. They died because there were inadequate food supplies. They died because there was conflict with the native peoples. But they also died because they hadn't got a reliable water supply. Contaminated, and very large numbers of people died of disease.
So these new findings, do they simply reconfirm what we already suspected, or do they change what we know about the settlers? I mean, as an American, this sounds pretty surprising to me. You know, the story I'm always most familiar with is Thanksgiving, and not the settlers eating each other, frankly.
Well, Thanksgiving, I think, relates to what's happening up in New England, where conditions were very different. But in early Virginia, conditions were dire, absolutely dire, and the mortality rate was very, very high. In fact, the Virginia colony only survived because fresh waves of migrants arrived. It hasn't got the capacity to sustain itself because of high mortality rates, lots of people dying, disease, warfare, starvation, and also no ability for the community to reproduce itself because very few women, lots of young men looking for a fortune, but very few women. And so the colony is very precarious for a long time. Up in New England, it's very different. It's colder, less disease prone, and there are a lot more settlers, and they come in family groups, and they reproduce themselves very quickly. So they gain a very firm foothold in New England, very precarious position in Virginia.